All right, let's take a look at our lesson today. Today we're going to be talking about inequalities, okay? And our objective today is to learn how to solve and graph inequalities on a number line. So let's take a look at our first slide. Now, our first slide here, we have vocabulary. All right, it tells us an inequality is a mathematical sentence that shows the relationship between quantities that are not equivalent. An algebraic inequality is an inequality that contains at least one variable. And our last vocabulary is solution set, is the set of values that make a statement true. Get those down in your spiral. Pause the video if you need to. All right, let's move on to our next slide. All right, this one right here talks about the signs that we're going to be using to compare inequalities. Okay, usually whenever we're talking about inequalities, it's going to be like greater than, less than stuff. Okay, so our signs for that, which you guys are familiar with, this sign right here is less than. Okay, our greater than symbol is this one right here. One that you guys may not be familiar with is this less than or equal to symbol. Now, what this means right here is, well, just like what it sounds like. It's less than or equal to. Now, what makes it less than or equal to is the fact that it has a line right underneath it. Okay, now that little line right there underneath it, you can kind of think of that's maybe like part, of an equal sign. Okay, because that's essentially what it means. And we could also, our last symbol that we have is greater than or equal to, which is the same kind of thing. It means it's greater than, or it could be equal to. That's why we have our greater than symbol with, again, the line underneath it. So if you come across, something that requires that, that's what we're going to need. Now, we use these. The reason why these are important is because these things right here are going to determine what we're going to have to do to graph these on our number line. Okay, and that's important because on our number line, anytime you have these, the ones that say greater than or equal to, or less than or equal to, these are going to be graphed with a solid dot, filled in dot on our number line. And then we'll go whichever, say if it goes this way, then we'll go this way. This one's the same way, filled in dot. Now this is going to be important for just a moment, and you'll see what I'm talking about. Okay, maybe this one goes this way, or whichever direction it's going to go. Okay, our less than, if it's just less than, we're going to graph that with an open circle, and if it's just greater than, we'll also graph that with an open circle. And you'll see exactly what I'm talking about on this next slide. All right, let's take a look. Okay, you don't have to write this one in your spiral. This is just to show you what I'm talking about. Okay, the word phrase here, it says x is less than 5. And then we have our inequality right here. Our x is less than 5. Notice your alligator, and I call it an alligator because that's what most of you guys are familiar with, because if you were to draw teeth on here, it would look, like an alligator mouth, eating the 5, if you will. Okay, so now it says sample solutions. This means the value of x. This says x is less than 5. Well, that means x could be 4 or 3 or 2 or 1 or 0 or any combination of these numbers. Okay, so when we graph that, if you notice, they use an open circle on 5 right here. The reason why they use the open circle is because it's not going to be equal to 5. It has to be less than 5. So it might be 4.9999, so it'll go all the way right up next to that 5, but it'll never quite get there. Okay, and it's going to be any number smaller than 2.5. So we have to draw our arrow coming back this way, because it's going to go all of those numbers. We don't know what the actual answer is. It could be any of those numbers. That's why the graph looks like that. Okay, let's take a look at our next one. All right, our next one is talking about a less than or equal to. Okay, and this is our symbol for that right here, which this one says y is less than or equal to 2, which means that it could possibly be 2. Or it could also be any number less than that. Okay, so if you notice on this one right here, we use a filled-in circle on the 2 because the value, the solution, could be equal to 2. So it could be 2, and it could be anything less than 2. So we have to draw our number line going back this direction. Okay. Now, if you remember, I told you it was going to be important for you to remember these lines underneath these, because that's going to determine whether we're going to use a filled-in circle or an open circle. Okay? All right, let's take a look at our next slide. All right, finally, an example. If you notice, this one says x plus 2.5 is less than or equal to 8. Now, this one, I have to find the value for x first. Okay, and to do that, I have to treat this less than or equal to sign just like it were an equal sign whenever we were solving our equations. So I have to draw my balance beam. Remember the balance beam? That balance beam never goes away. We'll be using that all year. Okay, so we have to get rid of this plus 2.5. Well, how do we get rid of plus 2.5? Well, we have to do the opposite of it, which is subtract 2.5. Remember, on both sides. Okay, so my 2.5s cancel out over here. And then I have my x is less than or equal to. I'm going to add a decimal here behind my 8 and a 0. Remember, whenever you subtract or add decimals, you need to line the decimals up. So once I have those, now I'm going to subtract like I normally would, which leaves me with 5.5. Okay, so I know that x is less than or equal to 5.5. Now, I'm going to graph that. So I need to go down here to my number line, and I need to find 5.5, which I know is between 5 and 6. And I also know that I have the line underneath my less than symbol, so I have to use a colored circle. Now, once I have that, now I can color in my number line here. You'll have to excuse my line. Hopefully you guys can draw a little bit better than this, but on the computer it's kind of hard. And then I'll put my arrow down here showing that it goes on forever in this direction. And that's the number line. That's how I would graph that inequality up there. Okay? Yeah, not too terribly difficult. All right, let's move on to our next one. This one says w minus 1 is less than 8. Well, again, first thing I'm going to have to do is draw my balance beam, because I need to get x by itself, so now I need to get rid of that minus 1. Well, we know the opposite of minus 1 is plus 1, so I have to add 1 to both sides. My 1's cancel out over here, which leaves me with w is less than 8 plus 1, we know, is 9. All right, so now I need to graph this guy. So I know that w is less than 9, so I have to go over here and find 9. Now, this right here is just less than, if you remember. I don't have a line under it, therefore it has to be an open circle. So I'm going to put my open circle on my 9 right there. And since w is less than that, I still have to color it back to the left. So I'll start down here. I'll fill in my arrow, and then I'll go right back over here to a 9. And, well, there we go. All right. Let's see if we have... Nope, that was our last slide. Now, remember, the most important thing we have here is our closed circle and open circle. Remember that closed circle, anytime you have a line under the less than or greater than symbol, you have a closed circle. If you don't have the line, it's going to be one of these open circles. Okay? Remember that, you should do fine.